Glasgow, end zone. Oh, my goodness! Teal, step back for the win! Ah! The middle room for Beasley, leaps over a defender and scores! Watson hits it the other way, deep to left field, it is gone! Now the catch, wrestled down on the 2, Coastal wins it! The Teal is for real!
This is the Teal Syndicate Podcast, your home for the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is officially sports season. August 3rd coming at you here on the Teal Syndicate Podcast, episode 3, and it is a doozy, as we alluded to last week. My name's TJ O'Sullivan, and as always, I'm joined by longtime voice of the Chanticleers, Joe Cashion. Joe, we've got a lot to talk about today. We've got a phenomenal guest on the show, as we've already announced on the Teal Syndicate socials. If you're not already following us, follow us down below at Teal Syndicate. Gary Gilmore on the episode. We've got a bunch of news to talk about. Joe, how are you? This is what an episode we've got lined up here.
TJ, I am fantastic. It was a great week for me. I got to travel out to Oklahoma and watch my daughter graduate from basic training, and now she's in Arizona. Then we came back on Friday night after all that was over. Got a chance to spend a little time with her, and then had a quick turn and burn trip. Got back and settling in here on Monday, August the 3rd. And as you say, a lot of news, but obviously the headliner tonight will be Gilly joining us. I'm looking forward to that conversation.
Yes, head coach Gary Gilmore back. He retired from coaching the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers in 2024. 2 years later, he's on the Teal Syndicate Podcast. Can't wait to talk to him. Stick around for the second segment for that. But we've got a lot of news, as we alluded to at the top of the show, Joe. Let's start off with some football. One of the headlines this week is Gary Duplessis, former Coastal Carolina wide receiver. He's signed by the Seattle Seahawks, making him the fourth current or active NFL player who calls Coastal Carolina their alma mater. Duplessis played at Coastal from 2021 to 2024, racked up 348 yards, a touchdown, and 15.1 yards per catch, and he transferred to Delaware in 2025 to finish up his college career, and he was an all-conference USA first-team honoree. He had 60 catches for 824 yards and 5 touchdowns. A solid career at Coastal, really made his mark at Delaware, and now he is the fourth NFL Sean.
That he is, TJ, and I really felt like it would have been in our best interest to try to hold on to Kyrie, as he was a walk-on to begin with, and Perry Parks was kind of the one who was big in recruiting him and kind of developing him as a wideout for Coastal football. He had a really good, really solid 23 season, and the 24 didn't really go to him as much as we did in 23. But I thought, in terms of, not maybe necessarily some guy that would stretch the field vertically, hit the big home run pass. I mean, he was a pretty sure-handed, solid route running receiver, and then we kind of let him go. Honestly, I think it was one of those personnel roster moves that probably came back, in my opinion, to kind of bite us in the butt a little bit, because you saw what he did at Delaware, right? He became an all-conference receiver for the Blue Hens, at the FBS level last year. If you watched him, and I watched him in a couple of games, and I thought, that guy would look mighty good in Teal this year. But, as the rosters kind of change and flip in the NIL portal era, kids come and kids go, and I kind of wish we'd held on to him. But it's great to see he's getting a shot at the next level. I think he can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about his opportunity at Delaware. I mean, you think about he came at probably what I would say the wrong time for receivers at Coastal Carolina. I mean, in 2021, he only got into 2 games because he was playing behind guys like, somebody he joins the NFL ranks with in Isaiah Likely. You had Javon Hiley there. You had Cam Brown. Like that was a loaded wide receiver core. And then, he wins the Cure Bowl. He's a member of that team that won the Cure Bowl against NIU. And then in the Tim Beck era, he gets Sam Pinckney to join the roster. So there go more opportunities. And it was a stacked Coastal Carolina wide receiver core. but he was a very pivotal piece of it. I think he benefited a lot from guys marking those stars, and he made his impact. But at Delaware, I think he wanted more opportunities, and opportunities found him. So we are incredibly happy for Kyrie. We wish him the best of luck in training camp coming up in the next month, and hopefully we see him in the regular season playing for the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks.
It'd be great if he made the roster.
Yeah, exactly. Turning our attention to, now we're going to stick with football. Samari Collier, as we alluded to last episode, he was granted the TRO against the NCAA, which allows him to suit up this fall. He remains in the transfer portal. Joe, we might as well just talk about it, right? There's 4 quarterbacks already in this quarterback battle for Coastal Carolina. But you look at the timeline, Samari Collier is going to have a really tough time finding somewhere else to play.
Yeah.
It's very late in the cycle. We're talking about, 34 days. 34 days until kickoff.
Camp starts this week.
Yeah. Well, camp starts this week, 34 days until kickoff. It's going to be tough for him to find another home. And you see on his Instagram, he's working out in the indoor facility in Conway. I would imagine that there's been a conversation with Ryan Beard. I couldn't get any confirmation on that. He remains in the portal. Do you think that there is a possibility that a 5th quarterback gets added to the mix, and the only one with Sun Belt experience?
I think in this day and age, TJ, anything is a possibility. I think everything is on the table. I'm not sure you can have too many quarterbacks on your roster, to be quite honest with you. I mean, because you just don't know if one gets hurt, if one is ineffective. And we saw both of those things last year, right? Ineffectiveness, we saw guys get hurt, get knocked out. We're running through quarterbacks left and right. And finally, Collier comes on the scene. And we, of course, got a lot into this the last episode, right? We talked about what he did in that middle part of the season to really lift that offense and lift the team to that 4-game win streak that put us in a position to go to a bowl game. But I don't think you rule anything out. But like you say, I mean, does he fit into what Coach Ryan Beard and offensive coordinator Nick Petrino, does he fit into what they want to do? Does keeping him on this roster, getting him back out of the portal, to start with, and then adding him to the mix here, what are the plus and minuses there? I mean, is there value to that? I'm going to be fascinated to see how this kind of transpires over the next, several days, week, whatever, because like you say, I mean, we're right here at camp and it is late. It is late to try to see if you can find a home at this point. I'm happy for him. I really am. I mean, I thought the world of him last year watching him play. I think he can help somebody obviously win games just by being the leader that he seems to be on the field, right? How people rally to him, and everyone's game seems to be elevated by what he does. They just have a belief when he's on the field. It will be interesting to see how it works out. I mean, I kind of like the guys that we have in the room right now without really ever having seen them play for Coastal, obviously. None of them have ever taken a snap for us, but I kind of like the talent that we have. You keep a Samari Collier around, who knows? That could be very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about just the electricity that he brings, and he didn't have a ton of opportunities to throw the football under Tim Beck. You look at his tape from his community college days and his high school days, he could throw the ball a little bit. So as scary as it seems, right? You've seen what he can do on his legs. You've seen what he can do in Teal, but I don't think you've seen all that Samari Collier has to offer. And I would be very interested to see a 5-way quarterback battle. I'm sure that is not going to make 4 people very happy. The other 4 quarterbacks who don't, now have to compete with an extra body. But, I would say that it is tough to argue against adding Samari Collier into the mix if you're Teal Nation, right? There's 4 guys, and I think that might be the only thing that prevents this from happening. Does Samari Collier want to compete with 4 other people, right? These are all things to consider, but I think Samari Collier back in Teal is objectively a good thing no matter what role he finds himself in.
I think it would be extremely fascinating, and I would personally love to see it. I mean, you can't help but get better. I mean, you add somebody to the competition mix. I mean, everybody's got to raise their game then, right? And you alluded to Collier's passing numbers. No, they weren't good. I mean, last year as quarterbacking goes, as effectiveness in the passing game goes, the passing numbers weren't spectacular by any stretch. But it wasn't the passing game per se necessarily that allowed him to lift the team and move this team the way that he did. It wasn't on his arm necessarily. That wasn't the biggest thing, right? I mean, it was just the fact that he was on the field and people had a belief and he could take that ball and go. A lot more RPO kind of stuff, as opposed to the air raid that, we all heard that's what Coastal was going to do, but we really didn't. There seemed to be a lot of dysfunction on offense in terms of what the philosophy was last year. And then Collier comes on the scene and we kind of narrowed that down into an RPO style for him. But, I would love to see him stick around. Whether he does or not obviously remains to be seen, because I think if he sticks around, that room gets even better.
Absolutely. Head coach Ryan Beard wants to light up the scoreboard, and we know that Samari Collier knows how to do that on the ground. So something to keep your eye on. Samari Collier officially eligible to play in 2026. He is still in the transfer portal looking for a home. And that will do it for the headlines, right, Joe? That nothing else crazy happened this week in terms of Coastal Carolina athletics, right?
Well, unless you're going to tease something else here that's going on, which I think is what you're going to do.
That's exactly what I'm going to do. Head coach Kevin Schnall of the now South Carolina Gamecocks. He is on SC Sports Talk Network this past week. Take a listen to the clip.
All right, one more real quick. Yes or no, Coastal going to be on the schedule?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. We're going to Conway.
You're going to Conway.
We're going to Conway.
Wow. How do you think you'll be greeted?
Yes, sir. Oh, my God, with open arms, be hugging everybody, kissing babies. But at the end of the day, that was the biggest thing that we talked. I say the biggest. That was one of the things we talked about. Like, that was a big thing for me. I know my time at Coastal, we always wanted to play South Carolina. Coastal should play South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And, they gave me the thumbs up immediately. And I felt like we owed Coastal to start it off and go to Coastal, and that's what we did. And obviously they'll return the game, the following year and come to us.
Head coach Kevin Schnall announces that the Gamecocks and the Chanticleers will go head-to-head in Conway in the 2027 college baseball season. It sounds like this is going to be a one-off game, where they play in Conway in 2027, 2028. The Chants go to Columbia, but they're back on the schedule. First time since 2016 that Coastal Carolina and South Carolina go head-to-head. The Gamecocks won that game 4-2. Coastal got a consolation prize of the national championship. So this is – we talked last week about the electricity behind this rivalry and the history in it. Joe, what are your first thoughts on the Gamecocks and the Chanticleers playing in 2027?
I'll tell you that I wish they would have waited a year. And I tweeted this out the other day. There was someone on Twitter who had mentioned this too, and I kind of agree with this person. I wish they would have waited a year, because I'm not real sure what purpose it serves to play South Carolina in year one after Schnall has left town the way that he did, right? And then there are a lot of just, I won't say hurt feelings, but there are a lot of ruffled feathers about the way that the shots that he kind of took and the things that were said.
I'm confused, Joe. I'm confused because he said that it was going to be hugs and kisses when he came back. So.
Well, if you go back to that clip, which I found really interesting, it's almost like Phil Cornbooth. That was almost like a throwaway question, it sounded like to me. Like Phil's just throwing this out there expecting, no, we're not playing. That's what it sounded like to me right? I'll wrap up throwaway question. I think Phil was completely caught off guard by what Coach Schnall said. Yeah, we're planning on going to Conway, is what he said.
Just threw his pickaxe at the rock and found gold. So
I just and it kind of goes back to Schnall talking about the kissing babies and being welcomed with open arms. I don't think that's gonna be the case, and that is a primary reason why I wish they would have waited at least until the 28th season. At least give Kevin Schnall a year at South Carolina to develop his own program in a season. Give Chris Lemonis a year to get his feet on the ground in Coastal, with his roster and his coaches, to where if Coastal and South Carolina, obviously they're playing in 28, but to hold it off until then, I think the feelings kind of calm down a little bit in both fan bases. And maybe if Kevin Schnall comes back, maybe you can vet him as a guy who spent 20 plus years as an assistant, is in the Coastal Hall of Fame, Sasser Hall of Fame as a player, right? As a head coach, led Coastal to within an eyelash of a national championship. Maybe you can vet him and his family a little more that way. I don't see this soon and then the feelings this raw. I think with a lot of people that's going to be the case, and I kind of think that's a shame. And I don't think it served anybody's purpose other than Kevin Schnall's, for South Carolina to come to Conway and play next season. Now, am I afraid? In no way what I say is Coastal should ever be afraid to play South Carolina in anything. I'm glad. Absolutely. We've been fighting for this game for years and years and years. Like you mentioned, 2016 was the last time South Carolina wanted to play Coastal. They have run away from this matchup ever since, probably in large part because the Chanticleers became the premier baseball program in the state, which we still are. But I just don't think I don't think it's in anybody's best interest to play next year. But they didn't ask me, so I just get to opine on it here, and those are my 2 cents on it.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, I agree with everything you said in terms of, letting both of these programs kind of get their footing, because Kevin Schnall's in, I think, a better situation, being as though he came off of a ton of success and, had a roster to begin with, and then took some of Coastal's roster, and now he's building something in Columbia. Chris Lemonis, on the other hand, he's been doing a heck of a job, but he had to start from scratch essentially. So I agree with it from that standpoint. I disagree in the sheer notion that I want to watch this game in 2027. So
and one last thing, TJ, to kind of wrap it up. I mean, you mentioned the player aspect too. Obviously, Kevin Schnall took players from Coastal and did it on purpose to take them to Columbia. Guys, he felt like it would help him win. Okay, so that's just another layer to it. There's precedent because when Jamie Chadwell left, Coastal had a scheduled series with Liberty beginning in, I want to say it was 2024, right? That series got pushed back to starting this year, right? And so now when Jamie comes back, there's been several years of being able to calm things down a little bit, because if people remember, Jamie Chadwell kind of left the same way. When he left Coastal, Chanticleers in 2022 were just kicking everybody's tail, 9-1, and all of a sudden things go south. Grayson gets hurt. We go south. Rumors of Chadwell departing. They're all over the place. Next thing you know, he's the head coach at Liberty. And Liberty, of course, the biggest football rival we had back in the Big South Conference. And so it's kind of like, why don't we just wait a year or two? And so now you get this matchup coming up this season. Coastal's already been through a coach, 3 and out, basically. Got a new coach. The one that replaced Chadwell is out. Got a new coach now, Ryan Beard. So it's okay. Things have kind of calmed down. I don't think there will be nearly the sort of acrimony, nearly the sort of, whatever going on about this matchup. This is Liberty coming to town and Jamie's coaching them. So there's precedent for moving something and saying, hey, let's hold off for a year or two.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In any case, South Carolina leads the all-time series 12-6. They've won 6 out of the last 7. Last one, as we mentioned, 2016. Gamecocks won 4-2, the year that Coastal Carolina won the national championship and established themselves as the premier baseball program for the decade to come in the state of South Carolina. And who is responsible for that? He joins the show next. Gary Gilmore on the Teal Syndicate podcast when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Teal Syndicate podcast. TJ O'Sullivan and Joe Cashion with you, and we're about to add a third to the panel. When I introduced Joe for the very first episode of the Teal Syndicate podcast, I said we needed a heavy hitter. We needed someone who knows Coastal Carolina inside and out, is interweaved within the culture. And Joe, I didn't think on episode 3 we were going to top you, but we've topped you and then some. Unfortunately,
yes,
no
we
offense.
have. No question.
Joining the Teal Syndicate podcast, he is the longtime head baseball coach at Coastal Carolina. Brought Coastal Carolina the 2016 national championship. Joining the Teal Syndicate podcast, it's head coach Gary Gilmore. Coach, how are you doing? Thanks for joining the Syndicate.
I'm doing great, TJ. I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys having me. It's great to be back out here, sharing some words with you too, Joe. It's been too long.
It has been, Coach. No doubt.
So, Coach, talk to us a little bit about what's going on. 2 years since you were at the helm. Talk to us a little bit about what you've been doing these past couple of years.
I mean, I've just tried to kind of find my own little niche in the world, so to speak. Get a little bit of baseball fix, being around my grandson and his little travel team. And, outside of that, just honestly, just doing things, taking care of my health. And those challenges have, been a struggle for me a little bit here the last 6 or 7 months. But, outside of that, I've got 2 grandkids in the Charlotte area. So, get to go up there a good bit and see them too, and see them play and stuff. So, I'm staying busy. No, I'm not bored.
Well, we appreciate you taking some time out of the schedule to talk to us. And, there's another thing you've been doing. We saw a picture when Chris Lemonis was hired. You had you told me an hour-long conversation with Chris Lemonis. And I know that it's been a couple years, but you are still well connected with the Coastal Carolina baseball program. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on your conversation with head coach Lemonis and the job that he's done with recruiting. What are your first impressions?
Well, Lem is, first off, he's a really a good man. And I think he'll do a great job at Coastal. I really do. As far as like the specific ins and outs of who they've gotten and who they don't have, I'm not privy to that kind of stuff. When he and I talked, it was more in generalizations of, if there was a role there for me to get back involved in the program a little bit, to just be around the program more than I've been the last couple of years. And, that stuff went very well. And, I'll be honest, I kind of kept my distance from them a little bit just because I know how busy they are. There's at the end of the day, TJ, I don't have a whole lot to offer them right this moment in time. They're out recruiting. They had one of the toughest jobs in the entire country. I don't think that there's anyone else that took over a program as a new head coach that had the daunting task that he had. He was left with absolutely nothing. 3-4 guys. I don't think anyone else in the country had that daunting of a task. And, last thing I wanted to do was, take up his time, just being a kind of a guy just hanging around the program, so to speak. I'll try to do some of that this fall. But right now, just, felt like they needed to spend 24/7 on what they were doing. Things he was describing to me that they were doing sounded amazing. And, I know all the guys they've had in to visit. I assume they've got a roster that's, that's going to be a roster that I'm just speculating at this point. That'll be one that, can keep their head above water, and I think, for anyone to really expect the Omaha run out of this is, they don't have they don't have Kevin Schnall's millions of dollars that he has up in South Carolina to rebuild a program overnight. It's a different get in the portal when, you go after the top, what is it? They all publicize the top 130 players in the portal or whatever. And I think the SEC got over 70 of them, and,
Yeah.
that's, it all comes down to, that's one of the reasons they win in Omaha and they get there so many different schools. They have resources that most people don't have. Coastal and, schools like Coastal don't have those type of resources. They can, they can either choose to spread it out and try to bring in, I can't imagine trying to bring in, 30 plus players on the NIL budget that Coastal has. I mean, even though we have a really good one for a mid-major, we for 30 guys, I mean, we don't have the kind of money where you're talking that you need to have to compete. You made the comment, TJ, hey, there's 1,000 guys in the portal, but at the end of the day, there aren't but about 150, 200 of them that are going to help you get to Omaha. The rest of them guys ain't helping you get to Omaha. I hate to tell you. Their
Yeah.
bodies, and they're warm bodies you can put in a uniform, but they are not the guys that are going to help you get to Omaha.
No, absolutely, Coach. And Joe, I'll let you go. You were about to say something.
Gilly, in terms of Coach Lamona's taking over the program, you spent 30 years as a coach, and you obviously played at Coastal as well, but you spent so many years at Coastal building a culture, building the culture of winning in Conway. What kind of things do you want to see as the program moves forward from a culture aspect?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, we all have to be cognizant of the fact that there's a new chief in town, and that has to come from Chris and what he wants his program to emulate out on the field that he preaches every day. I hope that our style of play, the toughness that we had, the selfless and relentless that he's told me he's keeping as their mantra words. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of that in him as a former player, watching him and in college, and as as a coach along the way and all the stops where he was, that I do think that that's part of who he is. And so I think he kind of falls right hand in hand with a lot of the things that we stood for and we did. Will they go about them in the exact same way? I mean, obviously, I mean, how Gary Gilmore did it or Kevin Snall did it or whatever. Chris Lamonis has to do it his way. I do think you should, that we should all expect and hope to expect that, the pillars of what we stood for as a culture in the program at Coastal, that you're going to see those not change. Some of the words may change, some whatever, but when you see us play, I hope we play with a chip on our shoulder. I hope we walk around very proud, but we're very, very humble, and we're very selfless, and we're extremely relentless when we go to play the game of baseball. And I do think I think you won't see as many changes as I think a lot of people think at this point in time they're going to see. I don't think there'll be that obvious to you. I really don't. I mean, having been in the SEC, he may want more power than we did. I mean, even though we led the country in home runs a few times, I think we were unique in the way that, we went about doing what we did, is that we tried to put a roster together every year that could beat you in as many possible ways as they could beat you. Always had great respect for Coach Belichick in football, and the fact that he always would devise his defense to take your number one weapon away from you. And if you were going to beat him, you had to beat him with your number 2, 3, or 4 players or whatever. Well, for the teams that can take your home run away from you, how can you beat them if you can't run and you can't short game and you can't do this and you can't do that? We tried to always, in my mind, that was my part of my thinking all along. We want to be good at all those things. We want to make you. We want, when people play us, we want them to hate us because we force them to actually defend us in every human possible way that you can defend a baseball team. And if you do that, you're going to win a lot of games, because most people can't defend you in every area.
Yeah, and you did win quite a few games, including that crazy run in 2016 that we all remember. And I mean, you brought up in your answer there the culture not really changing a whole lot as much as people think anyway. One thing, selfless and relentless, I don't think those two words, Coach, were going anywhere, regardless of whether or not Chris Lemonis wanted to change him. You have cemented those two words into the culture of Coastal Carolina. But in terms of some other things that are sticking around with the baseball program, Matt Schilling, another one of your guys sticking on the staff. And Joe and I talked in episode 1 about how important we felt that was for at least someone from your tree to stay in the program. And can you talk a little bit about what Matt Schilling brings to the table and what your thoughts are with him sticking around with the program?
Well, I will say this about Matt. He if you ask the players and the other coaches and this and that, he was one of the integral cogs in the success of our program for all those years. I mean, he was the guy that always found a way to see the glass half full all the time. He was the guy that anytime there was rips in the office, things going on on the field, this and that, he was always kind of the guy that saw a way to find a silver lining in everything that was going on and make everything right. And this program owes him a whole lot, and for Chris to keep him, I honestly think that was, I know he has a lot of other staff guys. I've seen the staff he hired, incredible guys with unbelievable resumes. His biggest get and biggest keep was keeping Matt Schilling, because Matt he's a player's coach, and he will do so many things for that program. And I can't say enough great things about Matt. And like I said, I was ecstatic that Matt wanted to stay and that Chris allowed him to stay, and was really happy to have him stay and be a vital part of his coaching staff, because Matt can be a great guy for him to bounce ideas off of, to do things like that. Because I did it for years. He always, he didn't always agree with me, which was great. He was willing to be strong enough to stand up and, Coach, I love the idea, but what if we do it this way, and give me another perspective of how you could do different things. And, every coach needs that, to be around people he can trust that really think along the same way that he thinks, but also can put a little twist on it to make it a little bit better.
You mentioned something a few minutes ago about, you hadn't had a lot of time really to be around the last couple of years, be around the program as you've taken care of your health and obviously spending more time with your family. But do you kind of see yourself maybe helping out a little bit more, maybe sticking your head in the dugout every now and then? Maybe not necessarily what Jack Leggett does at Clemson, or it could be. I don't know.
No, we're not doing that.
But do you see yourself, kind of hanging around a little bit and offering some what you can?
Yeah, if my health stays true, I can see myself going out to way more practices this coming fall, getting back out there and throwing batting practice some and doing some things and getting back involved in it a little bit or whatever, just, a little bit at a time, and kind of see if, there's any place in the staff for me to just simply be a guy that, every so often, Lem and I go out and grab breakfast or lunch or whatever, and give him a sounding board to bounce some things off of, just to get my feedback, just to see what what I think or what I remember from when I was coaching, and how different it is now that they're having to do all these things. But definitely, I definitely want to be a little bit more involved than I was.
No, and I got to say, having Gary Gilmore as a member of the support staff or as a volunteer, that's I don't think there's a better support staff member in the country than Gary Gilmore. So we would love to have you back, Coach.
Thank you, TJ.
Another thing that we're going to see come back to the Coastal baseball program, as we got into in the first segment, was the Coastal Carolina, South Carolina baseball series.
Yep.
Kevin Schnall went on to SC Sports Talk and announced that in 2027 it would be a Coastal Carolina home game with the Gamecocks coming down to Conway. Can you just touch on that series as a whole? The South Carolina, Coastal Carolina series, the history behind it, and, you know, what you think this means moving forward for the two programs.
Well, being very honest with you, there isn't a whole lot of history during my tenure there. You know, we didn't play, and only a handful of times, you know, in my 29 years there did we actually play. So, you know, I mean, I'm glad to see it get resurrected after all these years. I mean, you know, I think that was one of the things, at least for players on our end, on our team that were from South Carolina. You know, they wanted to. You know, they wanted to play against the University of South Carolina and stuff. So, you know, I think that kind of goes hand in hand with any kid in any state or whatever. You know, if there's one big university or two, whatever it is, you know, I mean, most all the players, they grew up dreaming of going to one of those two schools. You know, they may ended up loving Coastal Carolina and, you know, a College of Charleston or places like that or whatever. But, you know, at the end of the day, they first were in love with one of the two big ones when they grew up. And so, you know, they always have wanted to play. And, you know, when we didn't get to play for all those years, it was, you know, I mean, it was kind of a bitter pill for us in state. You know, I mean, it definitely was, you know, a piece of the puzzle. I think that you know, kept us from getting a player or two here and there. It was a factor in it over the years, and you know, so, you know, I'm glad to see that that's going to happen again.
Is there a team that you would rather see Coastal beat than South Carolina, Gilly? Because I remember, I remember what you said at the Hall of Fame thing, you know, last fall, right? I mean, it's kind of like that 2010 thing was just, man.
Oh yeah, it was,
you know.
no. There, you know, I mean, I don't mean it in a horror, like a bad way, like I hate them or something. It's just you know, it's just the one school, because of, more so not because of the athletic end of it, but more of the
Yeah.
politics end of it
Yeah.
that affected our baseball program and our athletic programs. That, you know, that so many politics from the university side, University of South Carolina side, you know, kept us from playing. It was really weird. We could play in football, we could play in basketball and softball and everything, but we couldn't play in baseball. It was really a strange thing going on there. I never really could quite understand the rhyme or reason behind the whole thing, when, you know, it was been different if they didn't play us in any single thing, but they were playing us in other sports, but they never would allow us to play in baseball.
Well, and you mentioned, you know, with your time at Coastal, not getting a ton of experience playing the Coastal South Carolina series, but in the times that you did, can you just talk about the environment, whether you were in Columbia or you were in Conway or Myrtle Beach? Like, what's the environment like out on the field when those two programs clash?
I mean, you know, when you go there, their fans just don't like you. I don't care who you are. They're not very hospitable. I can tell you that right now. They have their own way of pulling for their team. It's very unique. There are a few schools in the country that are like that, and they're one of them. And they let you know they don't like you, and they're on you, and they stay on you. You know, the last time I honestly, trying to think, the last time I can remember us playing South Carolina at Coastal, Coach Holbrook was the coach there, if I remember correctly. We had just finished the stadium. It was either 15 or 16. I can't remember which year it was that we played here. And I mean, it was an electric atmosphere at our place. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, he told me, he said, "Dad, that's like a SEC weekend game." I mean, it was nuts. We ended up winning in the bottom of the ninth inning on a sac fly to center field that won the game, and you know, it was an insane atmosphere. You know, and they had good crowds when we played there too. Like I said, they they let you know they're there. I appreciate them. It's not a lot of fun playing there, but I appreciate who they are and what they do.
Gilly, how are you feeling? I mean, I know a lot of
Yeah.
our fans, and people want to know. I mean, love you and care about you, and
Yeah.
I've had how you feeling?
Yeah, I had a rough spring, Joe. I mean, I had a major surgery on January 7th, and I was in and out of the hospital for almost 6 months. And I finally got over it. I had some infections and stuff from it, but I mean, I had an incredible, huge, massive, huge surgery on there in January, and you know, still have cancer. They got a bunch of the stuff out, but I still have it, and so I actually just finished. Or just had my second. It's a thing called PRRT. It's basically they put liquid radiation into your veins, and it
Wow.
goes through your body. Like, I have to be in quarantine for a week. I have to be away from everybody. I come home and I'm like quarantined in my own house and my room and everything else. So it's kind of nuts. But I mean, I did my first treatment of that in June, and had real good results. I ended up doing, in this series, we do 4 of them, one every 2 months. So I'm halfway through that. And I mean, honestly, right now, I feel great. Shoot, I ran a little over 2 miles on the elliptical today, lifted weights. I mean, heck, I hadn't done that in a while. So I mean, I
Good.
feel way better.
Well, you look good.
Well,
You
I
really
appreciate it. I
do.
don't know about that. Heck, I still ugly as I always was.
Well, if you're good enough to run a couple of miles on the elliptical, and you're talking about, getting more involved in the program come spring, I mean, we're very happy to hear that, Coach.
Yep.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I wish him good luck. I want to see us get back to a point where very quickly that we're the team to beat in the league. I mean, the league has gotten better. Southern Miss, they're just absolutely, they're nails every year, and they had a very good run at Troy this past time too. I mean, they did some remarkable things there at the end of the year with what they were doing. So hopefully, hopefully we can get ourselves very quickly back into that upper echelon. Hopefully we don't have a huge fall. I'm hoping they surprise us. I think they got some good guys. Just trying to mesh 30 some new bodies into a culture, is you guys as you well know. I mean, talent, you'd rather have talent than and tell anybody, you'd rather have talent than culture, but you can't win without culture. And you have to have the two of them together to a certain degree. And having all culture and no talent, you ain't winning either. So there has to be a fine line between finding the two and meshing them together. And hopefully Chris can do that. And my son and I were talking about it one day, and he told me, he said, shoot, Dad, said, think about all the new players and the this and that. Said, heck, we were bringing in 15, 18 guys, most every year anyway. He goes, we were bringing half a team in. He said, they're just bringing in a little bit more than half a team. And he said, we all had to mesh within a year, and he said, by the time the fall's over, if you do enough of the right things during the fall to build team culture, those things will be in place come springtime. And, no one can change the fact that these kids at this point have the ability to be extremely disloyal and go to the highest bidder as many times as they want to. I mean, and until some people, step forward and basically man up and put a set of rules together that can hold up in court or whatever, and get these attorneys off everybody's back or whatever. Until you do that, this is going to be chaos. And somebody has to stand up, whether this rule, this thing they have before Congress now or whatever, if it goes through or whatever, can it at least begin to give some solidarity to the fact of keeping kids here, that they can only transfer one time, and they have to sit out if they try it a second time. So, and I'm at a point too where, if all these judges, every time they make a rule, they're just going to overturn it, then you might as well just let guys play till they're 30 years old and just pay them and just make it a job. Just, just be like a minor league job, just here's your NIL, you make 75,000 a year, and this is where you got to come out and play. And I mean, I honestly think eventually you're going to see school not be a part of this. I think we're headed that way at some point in time where it's optional whether or not you actually attend class or take online classes or whatever. But there's going to be that. I just think it's headed that way. I mean, when was the last time anyone from the NCAA or anyone ever even mentions getting a college degree for an athlete anymore?
Well, I mean, you heard what Carson Beck said in the press conference leading up to the national championship game last year. He said, I don't remember the last time I attended class.
Yeah.
When he was asked about it, like that's the state we're at.
Oh, it is. I mean, I don't understand. I know the antitrust and all that stuff. I really don't understand it all, but I don't understand why they just don't pay them all and be done with it. And I mean, to me, have a salary cap for each team, and you're stuck. The problem you have, though, I'll be honest with you, if the truth be known, the big schools love it the way it is because they have all the money and all they do is just reload. They don't have to really develop like from the ground up. They may continue the development forward, but the first year or two, for most situations, the development is done by another 4-year college while those guys are waiting, and then they just pay you for whatever. It's like every team's the Yankees and the Dodgers. It's like heck, just we'll go out and buy. We lost 4 starting pitchers. We'll just go out. We got enough. We got $4, $5, $6, $7 million in portal money. We just go out and buy 4 starting pitchers to replace the 4 we just lost. And again, there's only a handful of teams that can do that. It's I never thought I'd ever see the day that we're in today. I mean, and it's y'all think about it. I've been out of college baseball 2 years. This has gone insane in the last 2 years. What we have gone from. I mean, we had. I think, heck, man, I begged, pleaded, and borrowed with 3 or 4 guys to help form a collective, and we ended up raising like $156,000 my last year for NIL to keep Bodine and some of those guys from having to leave because everybody else was offering them money. Yeah, I mean, you think about it, I mean, shoot, Coastal's got to be pushing $1 million right now, in NIL money for baseball, and I mean, which, I mean, the program deserves it. I'm happy for them, but I mean, again, when you're up against, according to what I'm being told, you're up against SEC clubs at the top end that are pushing $7 million. I don't even know how would you spend $7 million on 34 college guys? Like, damn.
It's insane to think about.
Did that was that part of the reason you got out, Gilly? I mean, I understand that there are a lot of other things going on, but I mean,
it was more so just,
you still want to deal with the stuff anymore.
I mean, shoot, Joe, you 2020, you get diagnosed with cancer, and the first diagnosis, they told me I wouldn't live 2 years, and so I mean, I've been like, okay, you changed the diagnosis and this and that, and now I've got a fighting chance to, do I want to do that instead of spending time with my family and friends and leave all that stress and all that crap? Well, I mean, that job right there today would kill me. It would put me in a grave because I mean, the stress you're under trying to figure all that mess out. I mean, I know Lem, the stress he had to be under for 30 days when he first took this job had to be immeasurable, to be honest with you. That's more stressful, I guarantee you, more stress than he's ever been under in his entire life, trying to figure out how in the world do we have we got a good NIL, but not to bring in 30+ players. I mean, that NIL could easily get sucked up in 15, 20 guys. What do we do with the other 15 or 20? How do we find ways to do all that? So all of that, I feel for them. I know they had to be working 24/7 and losing their mind because recruiting's too different too, guys. It used to be you called them and you got to know mom and dad. You had conversations. You basically became friends while you were recruiting them. Whether you got them or not, you knew who their girlfriend was. You knew what their hobbies were, whatever. Now, when you call them, according to what they tell me, it's just, what's the package, coach? No reason for any further conversation if the package ain't good enough. I don't know. I told him, I said that do me in. I wouldn't handle that real well. No, so I think I'll God let me be a baseball coach in college for 39 years, Joe. I'm very blessed, and I
Yeah.
got to be the last man standing one time in my life, and it was worth every hardship, every sacrifice. It was worth all that, every bit of it.
Yeah. Magic.
Yeah, it was.
Well, if you had one piece of advice, kind of leads me into the final question I've got for you, Coach. Maybe you talked about it in your conversation with Lemonis already when he was brought on board. But if you had one piece of advice for him, whether it be about the fan base, about the program, about success in the Sun Belt, success at Coastal Carolina, what would that one piece of advice be?
At the end of the day, I think the most important thing you can be as a head coach is be yourself. Sell yourself to your players. Let them see first and foremost. You build your culture of selfless and relentless for how you do everything every single day of your life. How you come to the office, how you have a meeting with them, how you show yourself on the field at practice, in any situation that arises. Just be yourself. Be yourself. I mean, you got to get them to love you. If they love you, they'll play their ass off for you.
Absolutely, Coach. Well, we cannot thank you enough for the time that you've given us tonight, or excuse me, today. This is Monday. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But yeah, Coach, thank you for joining the Syndicate. We got to get you back on, and we wish you the best of luck with your recovery, and we hope to see you in the fall.
I'll be out there. You have to bring the video camera and get me throwing some BP here, so we'll be good to go. But thank y'all very much, and listen, anytime you're talking up the Teal and the Black, you got my back. I appreciate you and everything you do. Joe, I miss our conversations, my friend. I still remember them.
Well, absolutely. We'll have more conversations for you.
I do too, Coach. I was muted there for a second, but I appreciate that. I remember that too. I remember I remember trying to record you the morning of the championship game. I was like, Coach, I need to cut this again. You're like, no, I can't. One of the funniest things ever. Like, Coach, we ran that pregame last night. It's off the stadiums. Had to play it like noon or something like that. That was one of the funniest things. I was like, oh, that's cool. Just go win this thing. I don't care. But
yeah, no shit. Damn. That was that was some crazy shit that night. And then you get home, you don't hardly sleep at all, and then you get up and then damn Joe's wanting me to do an interview. I'm going like, hot damn.
Well, we're gonna have a different pitching thing going on. It's kind of like, wait a minute now, what we had going on last night? Something different today, but hey, it was. Barry Lippman told me this is going to be epic.
I appreciate I thank Jay Johnson for that. The way he played that little game with me that first day and wouldn't tell us who they were pitching the whole time, and then so the next 2 days he had no idea who we were pitching either.
Exactly.
So, it was and I know that I know darn well that game 2 when I threw Big Mo out there. I know they were not expecting to see that at the time, and then heck, they had to be stupid to think we were going to throw anybody but Beckwith after we got that rain out he got an extra day's rest. And can you imagine thinking about NIL and all this money? Can you imagine? Because I feel sorry for that poor kid. Think about if Andrew Beckwith would have done this past year, or even in 25, if he'd have been on that team at Coastal and won a national championship. A guy that's 15-1, MVP of the World Series, a 1 point something ERA.
Unbelievable.
What would he get in the portal? What would he get in and out? He might get close to $1 million.
Exactly.
He
No
might
question.
get. You know what he got from us? 25% of a scholarship. Hell's fire. I sit there and think about that all the time. Every time I see him, he and I talk about that. I said, I feel so guilty. I said, you were on 25% when you did all that. I said, that's what you were on. Is that not insane?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Is it not? I mean, Marks was on 25%, Remillard 25, Owens 25, all them guys.
Oh, how times have changed.
Crazy.
Oh, is it not? I mean, I'm really happy about the scholarship piece that they're giving them, 34 scholarships. I've been a big time proponent of that for a long, long time, and they always lay us. It's what I tell all my coaching buddies. I said, you know what? I said, one thing I've learned about the NCAA and schools and conferences or whatever, I said, at the end of the day, they don't tell the truth very often. They all swore to us if they went from 11.7 scholarships to like 15 or 17, that the athletic departments would all go broke, that they couldn't do it because they had to give the girls their rightful due to match the scholarships. Yeah, you see the second it really crap hits the fan, man. We went from 11.7 to 34, and the women are getting the same, but yeah, we didn't break the bank. It's so amazing how all of this is out there and there's money to pay for it all. It's just shows you, man, that they had never really been truthful with us the whole entire time. Never have been.
No, they haven't.
It's really sad. All these kids, and especially baseball kids, all these kids have been paying. Heck, I mean, they paid a lot of money in tuition and meals and housing, whatever, because 11 scholarships divided by 35 guys just doesn't go very far. Doesn't go very far. Man, A lot of dudes paying a lot of money. Yep. No, it was kind of crazy. That's a discussion for another day.
Yeah. Coach, we got to put a part 2 in this. We got to get you back on the show and we can talk about the when you get back in the program and you see the way that things have changed over the past 2 years, we'll talk about that at that point in time.
Good. Yeah, I'll look forward to it. And like I said, I look forward to getting out there with Shill and Lem and the guys, and hopefully getting to know those boys a little bit. And, hopefully, with everybody's help and everybody's encouragement, hopefully they can keep that baby going. And hopefully we'll have a team that surprises us all and competes at the top end.
Absolutely. Coach, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining the show, and we will have you back.
Appreciate it, TJ. Joe, you take care.
Love you, Coach.
Love you guys, man. Love you to death. Take care.
Yep.
All right. When we come back, we will be talking about the questions that you guys have for us. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Teal Syndicate podcast. Welcome back to the Teal Syndicate podcast. Special thanks to Mr. Chanticleer Baseball himself, Gary Gilmore. Love that conversation. We have to get him back on. But, Joe, just anytime you get a chance to talk to Gary Gilmore, it's a good day.
No question about that. I mean, it's, a great get for us on our third show, right, to get Gilly on and he get his thoughts on kind of where this thing is headed here in the Chris Lemonis era. It's great to hear from Coach.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Not too bad Third episode, we get a Chanticleer legend, and in the first episode, we got a Chanticleer legend, and you ended up joining the show. So
Not sure I'm a legend, but I appreciate it.
At this rate, Gary Gilmore is going to be the third member of the panel. But hey, let's get into our final segment. We started this last week, and it did really well. I thought the questions were great. We're going to do our mailbag segment. We put out a post on our social media accounts at Teal Syndicate on both X and Instagram, asking some questions. What do you want to know? What do you want us to talk about? We've got 3 great questions today. Let's start it right off, Joe. First one comes from AJ Moran. He says, with new coaches in both football and baseball, what boxes do they need to check in order for their first seasons to be considered a success? And Joe, you kind of touched on this in the first episode when we were talking about the new era of Chanticleer athletics. But let's briefly go over this. What does Ryan Beard and Chris Lemonis need to do here in year 1?
That's such a great question, TJ, and I'm not real sure that I can answer it the same way for both teams. In fact, I know I can't do that because I think for football, as I alluded to, as I talked about in the first episode that we cut, I want to see a level of competitiveness from football that we haven't seen in several years. I think that would be, that would be a step up for me, one man's opinion, just to see this team compete and fight, develop a culture of that, which we haven't had in several years. Just go out there and fight. Just see what happens. I mean, again, go back to Jamie Chadwell's first year of 2019 when he finally got the opportunity to be the head coach. And, this team had gone 5-7 in 2018. Jamie Chadwell's first year goes 5-7, but it was like a 180, right? I mean, it's like watching 2 different teams and 2 different cultures. You knew that Coastal was close after that 2019 season because that team fought. That team fought from beginning to end. They just needed a couple of pieces to the puzzle that we needed to add. Of course, those pieces got added in 2020. So I want to see a level of competitiveness for this football team. Get 6 wins, get bowl eligible. I think that would be a success. That would be a successful season. Be competitive in the East Division. Get 6-6 at least. Go to a bowl game. Now for baseball, I think that's a tougher question to ask, right? I mean, because we're so used to 30, 35 wins a year. We're so used to Sun Belt Conference regular season or tournament championships. We're so used to NCAA tournament, regional tournament appearances, right? We're so used to these kinds of things. And now everything is like, we're moving in a totally different direction from, Gary Gilmore and what he built and the culture there, right? Kevin Schnall had it for 2 years, and of course he popped smoke and went to South Carolina. But I don't know what to expect from Chris Lemonis' first team or what success would look like. I mean, is it getting to the 35 win threshold? Is it getting back to the NCAAs in his first year? I mean, is that too big of an ask? There are a lot of baseball people that will say, no, we're not going to lower standards around here. And I get it. I'm right along with you, right in that same boat, not lowering standards or anything like that. Getting to the NCAA tournament, having a chance to win the Sun Belt Championship, making a run at Omaha, those will always be, the milestones that Coastal baseball, seeks to achieve each and every year. Does it happen in year 1? I don't know. And what does success look like? Again, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's very important to clarify the separation between what do we deem as successful and what does the fan base deem as successful, right? Fan expectations completely different, right?
Yeah.
I know of a ton of people in Conway and abroad, Coastal alums, that would love for Coastal baseball to win the national championship every single year. And that's a big reason as to why 2016 is so special and why 2025 was such a special run. You look back at 2020 to 2023 under Jamie Chadwell, all of a sudden, Coastal 3 years into their FBS tenure, they're putting together 11 and 9 win seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to recognize, I think, on the football side that you're coming off of 2 straight 6-win seasons. And I think that you're closer to what I would deem a successful season. Be competitive. Be competitive above all else.
Mm-hmm.
Show that you are making changes from the last regime, right? The last regime struggled on offense, as we've talked about, I think, in all 3 episodes at this point. Let's see some improvements on the offensive side of the ball. Let's see the defense get back to that black swarm mentality and attack the ball carrier. I think if you see that, I don't think it really matters if you're 4-8 or if you're 10-2. If you see those things, you know that you can build towards the future, and I think that that's what deems success. On the baseball side, I think you're correct. Chris Lemonis has had to start from scratch pretty much. He has put together a heck of a roster. Just see some competitive nature on the diamond. See these guys compete. That is important to me. If they can gel and they can put together a winning season in Chris Lemonis's first season as baseball coach, I think that that's successful. Above 500, I think is success for what baseball had to come from, if that makes sense. Those are my thoughts on it. That was a question, as we said, from AJ Moran. Let's get into second question. What's your prediction on the attendance for the Liberty game? I predict an attendance record type crowd. That was from Iverson Reed, a guy who gave a question last time. Brooks Stadium holds 21,000. How many? The record is against Charleston Southern, 22,217. Joe, what do you think? What are we looking at for this Liberty game on a Thursday night in Conway?
Well, I'm going to say no. I don't anticipate an attendance record for one reason that you just mentioned, a Thursday night game. Thursday night games are difficult to get to for fans. And I don't care where, who's playing them, what stadium, what campus, what school, whatever. Thursday night games are a difficult sell for fans to be able to get out. The travel on a Thursday night, parking, getting in and out, that kind of night. I mean, a lot of people got to work Thursday, like got to work Friday, right? So, I mean, I don't anticipate that. And it's not family day weekend. I haven't, looked at the schedule. I haven't, seen that, but it's not usually a family day weekend game is on a Saturday, late Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. That's kind of the big reason that we had the attendance record against Charleston Southern last year. Right. I mean, so for a couple of reasons, that being a Thursday night game, probably the biggest one. I don't know how much of our fan base really kind of remembers, back in the day, back when Liberty, and I've said this several times now, and I've already said it tonight on this podcast, Liberty has always kind of been they were the benchmark that we tried to beat in the Big South, and they tried to beat us, right? I mean, but I don't know how many of our newer fans really remember all of that, right? So my guess is no, it will not be a record.
I think that you are, just because it's a Thursday, I think you're spot on. I think it's going to be very close to capacity, if not over capacity. I could imagine a standing room only environment. Will it be a record? I don't know. We really have no way to tell, but the storylines heading into this game, Jamie Chadwell returning to Conway, the guy who revived the Coastal football program, brought them to FBS and national success. I think that there is still a little juice here. You mentioned it. Yeah, you mentioned in the in the opening segment, with the South Carolina series beginning in 2027, let those juices die down a little bit. I think that the juices have died down with the Jamie Chadwell situation, but I still feel like it's Liberty and it's Jamie Chadwell, and we've been waiting. We've been stewing. Coastal has been stewing for 3 years to try and get this shot. So I think it will be a big crowd. I would not be surprised if it was a record, but I think we're going to be looking closer towards that 19 to 20,000.
I don't think that's an unreasonable estimate. I think, again, the bean counters who come up with the attendance numbers, those people who's if you're counting heads or whatever, sometimes you look at something and go, wow, there were that many people there at that game. The bean counters have control over that. So who knows? It could be an announced record crowd for all I know. I'm again saying not, but I do expect a pretty robust crowd. And again, a lot of it too will depend on how we start, right? If we get off to a red hot start and all of a sudden the interest generates and even, just gets inflamed, no pun intended, for the Flames, right? we could have a whole lot of folks in seats that night.
Maybe Friday's a sick day for a lot of people. I don't know.
Could be.
But hey, that game, week 4, it's going to be something to watch, regardless of whether or not you're there, regardless of the attendance. It's going to be a heck of a game. I'm very excited for week 4 of the football season. And finally, the unpopular mindset, final question of the mailbag segment. He gave us a really good question last week. And this week, I think he may have topped himself. In today's transfer portal era, is it more important for a new coach to establish a strong culture first or to win immediately? How do you balance the two? Joe, nothing really to explain there. I'll toss it over to you.
I like the unbalanced. I mean, I like the mindset, right?
He asks some great questions.
I mean, I like this individual. He and I exchange messages a lot. So I don't think – so here's how I'll answer that. I don't think you can win without culture. I think we've seen that here both ways. I think when Jamie Chadwell, again, we mentioned him a lot here, when he established his culture, when Coach Gilmore, who we just spoke with, established his culture, there was a lot of winning that went on. Now, obviously, those two eras took place really a lot, in large part before what's happened with NIL and transfer portal, which makes building culture incredibly difficult these days. And people will say, well, it's impossible to do. No, it's not impossible to do. You can still do it. You just have to find different ways to do it. You have to do it a lot quicker. You have to find guys who really fit what it is that you want to do. And you have to establish what it is that you want to do. You have to establish the baseline of this is how we're going to do things. And you're going to be a part of this. And if not, you're out of here, right? I mean, you have to establish that culture before you can start talking about, okay, if we want to win long-term, if we want this program to be successful, the foundation of it has to be a winning culture where you're more interested in we and not me.
No, absolutely. I tend to agree with you in terms of my own opinion. In terms of I would say the national insight on it, I guess, is the best way I can describe that. I think it's a lot of what have you done for me lately? And I think that there's a lot of pressure in the athletic department saying, hey, transfer portal, you can go get whatever guys you want. There's so many guys in the transfer portal. You can't put a roster out on the field. And I think that a lot of athletic departments kind of crumble to that pressure. And you see guys, out in 3 years, out in 2 years, maybe get a fourth. I think it's how do you balance the two, I think, is the more interesting question here. I think you have to focus on building the culture. If you're a coach at any level, your job is to develop your players to get them to the next level. Mm-hmm. If you're a little league coach looking to get them into high school, if you're a college coach looking to get them to the pros, right? You have to develop your players to get them to the next level. It's very tough to do now that, you get a star freshman, let's say Alabama gets a blue chip running back and he doesn't get the time that he wants because it's Alabama and they've got 16 blue chip running backs at some point in time in various classes. So you're looking at a program that, you have a great recruiting class in 2026, 2027 rolls around, where'd they all go? And how do you balance the two? I don't have a real answer to this question. I think that it's more important for me to build the culture. But yes, you got to win if you want to keep your job. And it's tough to do now that it's basically free agency out here.
TJ, if we had the answer to that question, we would be making a ton of money from coaches calling us up saying, what is the answer? Because they're trying to figure it out too.
Calling us up. If I knew how to do it, I'd go coach.
If we could split the atom and figure out the answer to that question, I'm not sure we'd be sitting here making a podcast. We'd have a lot of money in our pockets doing it if we did. I think. Yeah,
you'd be my offensive coordinator, and we'd be coaching college football or something.
Uh-huh. That's why that's such a fascinating question. I mean, how do you do that? We're watching it. We're watching coaches all over the place trying to figure that out in real time right now.
Yeah, it is a crazy time in college athletics, but Ryan Beard, he will start to try and figure that out on September 5th as they head up to Morgantown to face West Virginia. And Chris Lemonis, he starts the 2027 campaign to try and continue the rich tradition that is Chanticleer baseball. But that's going to do it here on episode 3 of the Teal Syndicate podcast. As always, TJ O'Sullivan, that's Joe Cashion, and we will see you in episode 4. Take care.